Hello again, Vermonters. I want to talk about Flatlanders and food, the two F's here in Vermont. And so, first of all, as I've written for many years, Flatlander is not about where you're born, though that is one definition. And I'm a Flatlander because I was born in Connecticut. But I was conceived in Vermont, and my family are right here in Brookfield for many generations. And one thing I do know about is food, farming and food. The first big wave of Flatlanders, I guess, in recent history came here with the Back to the Land movement in the 70s with the oil crisis. We saw it happen. There was no Route 89 or 91 in the late 60s and into the 70s, but there was an influx. And then when we got past that economic decline, they moved out again. I mean, at least for the back to the land part, and we saw a cut down. There was then a big influx of people in the 80s when the real estate boom happened, and then again in the early 2000s. And now we've seen a huge influx of Flatlanders, people not from here, during COVID. There are two kinds of people in Vermont: those who do understand farming and food, and those who do not. It doesn't matter where you're born. There are plenty of people born and raised in Chittenden who have no idea about the farms that surround them or Vermont's history of poor white farmers on dairy farms struggling for 60 or 80 years here, 100 years here almost now. And that's going to be the defining difference between us as we go forward. I don't care where you're born. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. You need to come together and support our farmers and local healthier food for our children. It's all going to be about food. I've been writing about this for years. Joel Salatin, Wendell Berry's been writing about this for 60 years. This is not unforeseen. Just like the stock market collapse of 07 and 08, you can say, who could see that coming? Who couldn't? We were spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year on loans with people with no income or jobs or assets or money down. And then people go, oh gosh, how could that happen? Well, if Vermonters remember their history of the Great Depression, nobody thought they were going to lose the money that they had in the bank accounts. Nobody thought that the price of milk was going to be cut in half overnight, or that eggs would drop to 10 cents a dozen. Vermonters got through the Great Depression because we had 29,000 dairy farms here, and they were small dairy farms, and they were diversified. So they also had pigs or sheep or chickens. Where are those animals now? Where are those small holdings now? When you shift entirely to dependency on industrial food from far away, confinement operations that destroy the soil, that pump all the water to the ground and lead us to future drought problems. Lake Mead is disappearing. One of the greatest problems will be a flood in California, because between California and Arizona, that they produce about half of the whole food for this nation. Absolutely, it's miraculous, but it's dependent on long-distance shipping, industrial agricultural methods that are not sustainable, especially now that we have increasing fuel costs and spiking fertilizer costs. All main three fertilizers, phosphates and potassium and nitrogen fertilizers, are all going through the roof. What do you need? Cows, rotational grazing, nurturing soils, the microbiome of the earth, which used to be Vermont. We don't pave it over. We don't chop it into suburbia. We don't make it into mansions for Flatlanders and gentrifying people coming here to make this their new Martha's Vineyard. Because if we do that, we do so at their peril as well as ours. It is time for people to stop denigrating farmers as stupid, to stop suggesting that growing food and farming is unprofitable. It's always been profitable. It's just corporate America making the money while they ran the small farmers out so that they can now drive up all the prices because you don't have any options. The option are CSAs. The option is young farmers who have already moved here and are now distraught that they can't afford to buy land if they haven't already. And why should they, when real estate taxes are so high? And Vermont just increased its budget again by 5%. During COVID, while the economy's down, the government bureaucracy, the largest employer in our state, continues to bloat and grow at the expense of farms, farm families, and regular Vermonters. So, Flatlanders, doesn't matter. Rich, poor, blue, red, you either understand food and its importance in our culture, in our economy, and in our bodies, or you don't. And you should get educated if you don't know. And there are a lot of books out there about the adverse health consequences to our tainted food. Corporations are out to make a profit. Antibiotics, hormones, preservatives, growth hormones for plants as well. No wonder we have spiking cancer rates in our young people. No wonder we have dropping fertility rates in our young people. If you put crap in, you're going to get crap out. So if you buy cheap food, then you're just going to spend more for health care and medication. Exercise, local, healthy, nutritious food that's nutrient rich. That's how you stay healthy. It would be a great, better health preventive than One Care Vermont, a huge, monstrous, money-sucking waste of money that doesn't help patients at all. Our hospitals are growing in administrative staff and high-paid executives, but not in nurses. We can't get enough. Not in patient care. That's suffering. We spend more, we get less. All of this would be improved with better food, and that could be supplied to our hospitals. My farming manifesto that I put out when I ran in 2020 for governor, I deliberately called a manifesto. It is an urgent need, and now food inflation is showing us why we have to come together and support our young farmers and find our retiring farmers and others who have the knowledge on how to make hay and understand aphids and soil and pH and how to grow vegetables. I met a local farmer recently named Dave Chappelle who's been raising potatoes here in Williamstown for decades. And the amount of knowledge that that man has compared to so many people, you can't get that in a book. It's experiential. It's vast. It's something we should deeply respect and preserve and pass on. We've lost 94% of our heirloom vegetables forever with the biodiversity that goes with it at our peril. Let us not also lose all of the farmers and the people who had this knowledge. Jack Laser, who was a friend and has passed away, he would tell you this. Dexter and Alice Randall would tell you this. Our farmers are the ones that should be teaching people. And we don't have many, or at least any. We got Rodney Graham. I don't know that we have any other dairy farmers or farmers at all in our legislature. And so we're being run by bureaucrats who don't understand food and think they'll just wave a pen and then they're going to feed all the poor people. What? Plastic wrapped garbage from China? Get involved, find out where your food comes from. Support a CSA and find out how through my plans we could make it more affordable for farmers by reducing their property taxes and transitioning them into a place where they could become more profitable. I thank you as always for listening. I fear for where we're going to be this winter and beyond, and we need to be looking at our farmers because it's the number one thing we can do to improve the environment, improve our economy, support local families to be here and live in our schools and grow. We need real farmers in our legislature. I'm one of them, and I represent others, and I'm really humbled to know them, and I learn more things from them all the time, almost every day. And in case you haven't looked, we have a real crisis in Vermont amongst our farmers. And if you don't know about that, maybe you're part of the people that don't know where your food comes from and don't know what kind of real peril you're in. And in Chittenden, you can go on with your social justice destruction of that city. Where did your food come from? What happened to Rome when it forgot where its food come from? Because all the elites were bickering over their little power struggle and their materialistic wealth at the expense of food and farms. Thank you very much for listening.